In 1985, Marvel Comics released a limited series that consisted of 9 independent comics, but that crossed over into 22 other comic books. Secret Wars 2 was a marketing gimmick that required readers to purchase multiple titles if they were to follow along with the whole story, and it was tremendously successful commercially, even though all 31 comics were critically panned. The plot of the series involved a godlike character named the Beyonder, who was so powerful that he could shape reality to his whim. If he wanted to, he could create a whole world made of Rubik's Cubes with the snap of his finger. Or he could turn Captain America into a girl. Or he could destroy everything in the universe and then create the whole universe again. And one of the questions or problems that the Secret Wars series, both the first series and the second, tackled was the problem of power. Secret Wars was about how to understand and cope with unlimited power. In 1947, the Frankfurt School philosophers Max Horkheimer and Theodor Adorno tackled this same problem in their book, Dialectic of the Enlightenment. And in the first chapter, they quoted Francis Bacon, who, writing in the 17th century, laid out the premise of Secret Wars. Bacon wrote polemics against tradition, against superstition. In the Dialectic of Enlightenment, his project is summarized this way. Enlightenment's program was the disenchantment of the world. It wanted to dispel myths, to overthrow fantasy with knowledge. Bacon, the father of experimental philosophy, despised the exponents of tradition who substituted belief for knowledge and were as unwilling to doubt as they were reckless in supplying answers. All this, he said, stood in the way of the happy match between the mind of man and the nature of things. Let's repeat that last bit. The happy match between the mind of man and the nature of things. In the first Secret Wars comic book series, a character named Dr. Doom managed to create that happy match. Doom, using some mirrors and glass lenses at an opportune moment, managed to capture the power of the Beyonder and use it for himself. Doom became God. But once his mind matched up with reality, he discovered a new difficulty. His mind didn't match up with itself. When everything he thought became real, Doom was faced with one adversary, his own mind. In the Dialectics of Enlightenment, the logic behind this 80s comic book is made clearer. According to Horkheimer and Adorno, Enlightenment-era thinking was totalitarian. Like Dr. Doom in the comic book, it aimed to absorb everything and control everything, first by reducing all of reality to the level of mathematics, and then by reducing mathematical reality into a unity. The natural world was to be understood not through myths or concepts or necessary forms, but through a process of equalization. Adorno and Horkheimer wrote, "For the Enlightenment, everything which cannot be resolved into numbers and ultimately into one is an illusion. Modern positivism consigns it to poetry. Unity remains the watchword from Parmenides to Russell. All gods and qualities must be destroyed." Positivism is a theory of knowledge claiming that in order for us to know something, to take it into the realm of reason, what we know must either be tautological, a matter of definition within a system, or empirical, something that we find in the world. Moral, artistic, spiritual, and many other claims or forms of knowledge are reduced to the level of nonsense, myth, or mere fancy. According to Horkheimer and Adorno, the Enlightenment project necessarily reduced knowledge and meaning to power and survival. People are faced not with decisions based on principles, cultural values, or moral inclinations, but upon a choice between survival and doom. This, quote, choice is reflected even in the principle that of the two contradictory propositions, only one can be true and the other false. The formalism of this principle and the entire logic established around it stem from the opacity and entanglement of interests in a society in which the maintenance of forms and the preservation of individuals only fortuitously coincide. The aim of gaining power over nature necessarily leads to a contradiction, and humanity is alienated from itself as it is overwhelmed and then destroyed by the totalitarian power its own project has unleashed on the world.
Hear me, nations of the world. My power is without limit. I can turn day to blackest night, summer to winter. But I am above all a reasonable man. Thus I have granted your leaders 1 week to surrender to the rule of doom.